Hi everybody, this is Judy at Judy in the Kitchen. Today we're talking about onions. Now everybody is familiar with onions and some people use them more than others do, but there are different types of onions available to us. Actually a wide variety of onions, and I wanted to cover them, breaking them into three main categories: storage onions, soft onions, and small onions. This video is going to focus really on storage onions, okay? Storage onions are ones that most people would be familiar with. They look like the usual common type of yellow, red, and white onions that we buy that have the thin, crispy, papery skin on them. The reason they're called storage onions is because they've been cured after they were harvested, and that simply means that they were laid out to dry. And so the papery skin will dry up and form that crispiness during that curing time. Because they're called storage onions, they can be kept for months when they're stored properly. According to the National Onion Association, the best way to store these types of onions would be in a cool, dry, dark, well-ventilated room, like a pantry or a cellar, a basement, or even your garage. The ideal temperature for storing them is anywhere from 40 to 50 degrees. So yes, it's on the colder side, but a cool, dry environment helps to keep them from spoiling or rotting along the way. The ventilation will help to prevent them from developing mold and rotting. And you want to certainly allow air to circulate around these onions when you're storing them. Don't store them in a plastic bag. Please don't do that. And that will trap humidity in there, and some moisture will accumulate in that bag, and it will cause them to rot, which you don't want to do. So take them out, and you can put them in a basket like this if you want to do that, or just lay them out on newspaper or something like that. Anything will do. Now, about the different types of storage onions. We have yellow onions. Everybody's familiar with these yellow onions. They're sometimes referred to as brown onions, and obviously these have been cured. They have a relatively high starch content, and they will not become overly mushy when they've been cooked for some period of time. And they range in size from large to small. The average medium-sized yellow onion is 2 to 3 inches in diameter and weighs about 3.88 ounces or 110 grams. Most of the onions grown in the United States are the yellow onions, the yellow storage onions. The flavor, everybody's familiar with that characteristic, strong, sharp flavor that yellow onions have, especially if you try to eat them raw. They will be sharp in flavor, but that flavor mellows out when they're cooked. And if you cook them enough and caramelize them, they actually become sweet, which is wonderful. Best uses for yellow onions: they're considered to be an all-purpose onion. In any recipe that calls for onions, you could use yellow onions. And if a recipe doesn't call for any specific type of onion, you can't go wrong by using yellow onions for sure. They work exceptionally well in any dish that calls for a long cooking time, like stews and stocks and braises and soups. They work very well in meat dishes, including being cooked along with roasts. And they can be used as a substitute for any other onion that a recipe might happen to call for. They work especially well for making onion rings, French onion soup, and bloomin' onion recipes. The next type of a storage onion is a red onion. Again, most of us would be familiar with the red onions. They have like a reddish purplish skin with white layers inside that have a little bit of a purple layer on top of them. And these are wonderful in salads, and their color is due to a lot of anthocyanins and flavonoids in there, so they have valuable antioxidants in them with some very important health properties along the way. It's notable that red onions will lose their color when they're cooked, so a lot of people save the red onions for raw applications because They don't want to lose the color. About 10% of the onion crop in the United States is red onions. They can be substituted for white onions in recipes. Regarding the flavor of red onions, if you look online, you're going to find some conflicting information regarding the flavor. Some resources state that the red onions have a more mild flavor than the yellow onions, while other resources state that the flavor is sharper than yellow onions. Actually, I have found both to be true. Depends upon the onion, and I can't explain why the difference in flavor. I wish I could. It might have to do with the growing conditions, the soil amenities that may have been used or may not have been used, the pH of the soil. Any of that can affect the flavor of a food. So whether your red onion is going to have a sharp or a mild flavor, you're just going to have to taste it and find out. If you wound up with a red onion that's very sharp in flavor, if you soak it in cold water for a little while, it'll help it to crisp up, and it will also mellow out that flavor some. So if you want to use it in a salad, something like that, and it's just too sharp, put it in a bowl of cold water for a while you're making the rest of the salad, and that will help to mellow out that flavor some. Regarding the best uses of red onions, they're most often used in raw foods like salads and salsas. They can be sliced and added to a burger or a sandwich as a topping. They can also be pickled. They can be grilled. And when they're grilled, the inside gets soft and it's almost like an onion jam kind of effect. And again, they can be cooked, but their color is going to mellow out and not be so rich. It's going to fade as they are cooked. Now, the next type of a storage onion is a white onion. I don't have one of those handy, but they look like this, except they are pure white. They are snow white. And they are very similar to the yellow onions in their shape and appearance, other than the color. They're medium to large in size, and they have a thin white papery skin on them. They do have a high water content, so white onions are very crisp. And they're commonly used in Mexican cuisine. And in the United States, maybe about 5% or so of the onion crop is white onions. Regarding the flavor, it's similar to yellow onions. It's pungent, yet it has a mild sweetness to it. It has less of a lingering, strong aftertaste than a yellow onion does, so it's a little bit sweeter that way. And again, if you want to tame the flavor of a white onion, do the same thing as I already mentioned. Soak it in a bowl of cold water for a while, up to an hour on your soaking time, and that will mellow out the flavor. Regarding the best uses of white onions, they can be used as a substitute for yellow or red onions in any type of application, whether it's raw or cooked. The texture of white onions makes them a perfect addition for salsas, chutneys, and raw food applications. And you can dice them and add them to salads and sauces, guacamole, and wraps if you want to. You can slice white onions and use it as a topping for a sandwich or a burger. They can be chopped and added to soups and stews and stocks and casseroles as well. You can grill them, you can roast them with meats, and even use them as a pizza topping. They're excellent when they're sauteed, and they'll give a little bit of a sweet, sour flavor to foods. White onions pair well with tomatoes, jalapeno peppers, carrots, parsnips, turnips, potatoes, garlic, fennel, meats, poultry, seafood, beans, rice, and herbs like bay leaves, tarragon, rosemary, marjoram, cilantro, and thyme. In other words, what doesn't go with a white onion? And they also pair well with cumin, cinnamon, coriander, anise, and even cloves. White onions will not keep quite as long for you as the red or the yellow onions. They'll keep for 1 to 2 months when they're stored in a cool, dry, and dark place. Well, that covers what I've got for storage onions. I do hope this helps. Again, there's 2 more videos that are related to this one on the other categories of onions. And so hopefully that will help you out as well. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below. This is Judy at Judy in the Kitchen. Bye for now.